Welcome to Rauta's review video. Today I'm gonna tell you a little bit of the band known as Paradise Lost. I'm actually gonna save much of my story to the next particular video about Paradise Lost and my personal history with the band, which is not a great story, but nevertheless I'm gonna go into further details about the band and their albums and whatnot in that particular video, so check it out if you're interested in the video or the band or just my personal opinion. But today I will talk about their latest album called Medusa. It is released by Nuclear Blast on 1st of September, which, if everything goes as planned, was yesterday, considering when this video was uploaded. So, Paradise Lost has done music for almost 30 years. That's a long time for any sort of band, not to mention metal band that actually went and created their own kind of gothic metal kind of subgenre. So, before we get into the details of the music, let's take a look what this album has inside. So, the color lilac or purple or crimson, I don't know which one you actually prefer, but that's kind of the idea here when it comes to the colorscape of the album. As you can see, it's really purplish inside, and the cover image is kind of a old school, old-fashioned, so to speak. Inside we probably have a lyrics sheet, which to my surprise is really minimal in style, just plain lyrics and nothing else whatsoever, not even a single band page, just a list of these band members here. So, Paradise Lost, Medusa, what has changed? If you're sort of a fan of Paradise Lost or otherwise aware what the band has done in last few years, you probably noticed that Paradise Lost has returned to their really old and almost doomish old school gothic metal style. I think this already started some 10 years ago, roughly, when they started to, getting back to their earlier type of metal they used to do back in the early or mid 90s. Meanwhile, their earlier album, the last one, The Plague Within, about 2 years ago when it was out, it was clear that the band kind of got back into death metal phase all again, and they kind of decided to, forget their previous, stuff, which was maybe lighter, but also kind of more atmospheric in the sense of having more melodies, more clean singing and all that stuff. Now, Medusa as an album is kind of a mix of these two styles. It's like kind of balancing on a scale. It kind of is the death metal album The Plague Within was, or still is, but it's also including more these clean vocals, which kind of create a really interesting and well-balanced overall album. It is kind of a combination of everything that Paradise Lost has done through 30 years in their career, and then put into a blender and then just put on a plate or whatever and made into a paste. That is what Medusa is, in my opinion. So what I'm trying to say here is that Medusa is really strong album. It's definitely a good album, but it's also sort of a compromise of sorts when it comes to the music. It's really, really heavy album. It's very atmospheric one, and at the same time it's a death metal album. It isn't, because it's shifting from one place to another and then coming back. And there are no, weak points. There are no weak links of a chain here. But then again, it's actually not the one type of album which has really, strong single songs, like, for example, what they happened in the late 90s with the As I Die, and a few later other songs that came as like a video hit singles or whatever. Medusa is really, like I said, it's well balanced. There are no like peak moments, there are no weak moments. It's a really interesting case in that sense, but if I have to be really honest here, it's also a tiny bit of disappointment. Only a tiny, because like I said, it's a good album, but I was still hoping that some really strong ones would be, out there. Just a song or two that would actually, stand out from the rest of the album. I have to take a look because I don't even remember the names anymore, but for example, The Longest Winter, Medusa, and the last one, Until the Grave. They are probably the songs that I think stand out a little bit more from the rest of the songs. If I really have to make, if I really had to pick one or two or even three out of the rest of the album. But then again, I don't want to, make this album sound like it has a couple of good songs and the rest are just or that they are a couple of great songs and the rest is just, solid. Because the whole album is solid one. But with just maybe a song or two or three which are a bit more better than the rest of the album. Overall, this production is quite organic, which means the guitar sound is really heavy, but it's not like fuzzy or really like overproduced in the way of, creating sort of ultra heavy sound, like what happened with Morbid Evil's late CD, or when it's probably done, it's something that maybe Rammstein would do. Paradise Lost sounds like they are having the almost perfect Paradise Lost sound. And Mr. Holmes is doing excellent work with his vocals. I totally just, love the raspiness of his growling vocals. But then again, I also love when he really, goes into the clean, atmospheric, even melancholic moments with all that singing. And those two, when they combine, it's just like a sweet and sour. It's just, almost a perfect combination when it comes to vocals. Me, being a really long time Paradise Lost fan, I like almost every CD this band has ever put out. And in that sense, I wouldn't put Medusa in the top 3 Paradise Lost album. But that is not to say it's a weak album, because it is not. It is one of the best albums of the year, in my opinion. And if you're a Paradise Lost fan of any CD, basically, especially if you're into the ones that have come out in the last 10 years or so, I think Paradise Lost is definitely succeeding, creating Medusa as a good album from a band that is actually quite old by now. So, the real question is Medusa a really good album or is it a great album? It is a good album. It's not far from being great, but it's not the best Paradise Lost album there is. Anyway, Medusa, a definite thumb up, maybe even 2. So, check it out. It should be, listenable at streaming services, and at least the video song is already out on YouTube, so hit your search buttons and check it out. Medusa, great work by these great British bands. As always, leave your comments, rants below or on our Facebook page, and thank you for watching. Be back soon.